One Up Media.
It was close to lunchtime on Saturday, March 15th, 1986. Within the precincts of the Lien Yak building in Singapore, a young woman found herself immersed in the banalities of financial paperwork. Surrounded by a pile of invoices and checks, she stole a momentary glance at her wristwatch, counting down the minutes until she could dash off for lunch with friends. As she sat at her desk, the ground beneath her feet started to tremble, setting off eerie vibrations that echoed from the depths of the building. An unsettling feeling crept into her mind, a sense that something ominous was brewing. Minutes passed, and by 11:15 a.m., a sudden uproar shattered the calm atmosphere within the Industrial and Commercial Bank office. Chaos had descended. The tranquility of the office morphed into a scene of unfathomable darkness and disarray. Amidst the debris of what was once the Lien Yak building, now lay a labyrinth of shattered structures and mangled remnants. The young woman found herself enveloped in darkness. Concrete dust filled her mouth and nose, an unwelcome intrusion that muted her cries and obscured her vision. Despite the chaos surrounding her, she remained oblivious to the sudden turn of events. One moment, life carried on as usual, and the next, she found herself buried under layers of concrete and debris. However, to the bystanders across the street and those outside the building, the site was a colossal heap of rubble. It was evident to them the Lien Yak building had collapsed.
No, I saw a building, just like ice cream melting, just like this,
Initial estimates put the number of people trapped at 100.
This is a very sad and shocking day. So I think what we have to do now is to put every ounce of our energy, effort into the question of saving lives first. That's first and primary.
If you were a bystander on the street, you would see a tumultuous scene painted in chaos. The once sturdy building reduced to a jagged pile of debris, dust clouding the air like a shroud. Emergency vehicles, their sirens blaring, raced to the scene, while rescue teams navigated through the rubble with urgency. In the midst of it all, you would hear the relentless clang of metal against stone reverberating through the air, while shouting voices overlapped in a cacophony of urgent commands and desperate calls for help. Once the proud site of the renowned Hotel New World, the Lien Yak building now lay in ruins.
My father is trapped inside. Your father is trapped inside. Is your father out now? No, not yet. Not yet.
33 individuals were killed in a span of 60 seconds. But now, the grim possibility of over 300 trapped under the debris loomed large. For those trapped beneath the rubble, without swift intervention from emergency responders, this site could tragically transform into a mass burial site. From One Up Media, this is Mass Murders.
Let there be no mistakes about it. Whoever governs Singapore must have that iron in him, or give it up. This is not a game of cards. This is your life and mine. I've spent a whole lifetime building this. And as long as I'm in charge, nobody's going to knock it down.
Over the span of 40 years since 1980, Singapore has evolved from an emerging Asian nation to a thriving global metropolis. During this time, significant shifts have unfolded in both social and economic realms, shaped by a growing influx of foreign investment and shifting dynamics within families. But in the 1980s, Singapore was still in its formative years, marked by significant construction projects shaping its landscape. This era witnessed a surge in the nation's birth rate and an influx of newcomers. Yet Singapore, occupying about 730 square kilometers, stood relatively compact among nations. With space at a premium and the population steadily growing, the city-state faced a pressing need to adapt. Hence, the nation adopted a straightforward strategy: taller buildings to accommodate the increasing population influx. On the intersection of Owen Road and Serangoon Road stood the Lien Yak Building. Constructed between 1969 and 1971, the building boasted 6 stories and a basement garage upon its completion. Among its occupants, the renowned Hotel New World was the primary tenant, inhabiting the uppermost 4 floors. Additionally, the ground level accommodated a branch of the Industrial and Commercial Bank, which later merged with the United Overseas Bank in 1987. Amidst its diverse tenants, a lively venue, the Universal Neptune nightclub and restaurant, found its home on the 2nd level. This nightclub added a vibrant touch to the establishment, and it constantly witnessed long snaking queues of mainly young people every night. During the hotel development surge in the early 1970s, hotel proprietors quickly grasped the appeal of integrating a discotheque within their premises, recognizing it as a guaranteed method to captivate young Singaporeans seeking innovative forms of entertainment. Yet on the 14th of March 1986, the club-goers were unaware that their night of revelry would culminate in their final dance. On that fateful Friday, the 14th of March, the evening descended, and the nightclub's hostesses arrived earlier than usual. With a diligent routine, she readied the venue for the bustling night ahead, meticulously wiping glasses and setting up the bar. However, as she was occupied with her routines, a sudden startle seized her. Looking towards the dance floor, she spotted a troubling sight: a crack in one of the columns. She decides to inform the landlord, and soon after, while the nightclub buzzed with activity, a few workmen began repairing the damage. Once the cracks were patched up, they went unnoticed, as everyone was engrossed in enjoying the vibrant atmosphere of the night. The next morning, as the bank commenced its usual operations, an alarmed customer hurried to the counter, urgently notifying the person in charge about debris falling from the car park ceiling. Without delay, several bank tellers rushed into the basement car park, swiftly assessing the scene. There, they found scattered debris and concrete chips, alongside a pair of workmen tending to yet another cracked column. When inquiring about the situation, the workmen confidently reassured them that everything was under control and it was just routine maintenance work that they were carrying out. Convinced that the situation posed no concern, the bank tellers went back into the office. Yet, at the hotel's 3rd floor concierge, staff began noticing cracks and fissures appearing on the walls, ceilings, and pillars. During this time, the cracks had likely become apparent across the lower floors, catching the attention of most occupants within the building. Yet, despite their visibility, there was an absence of alarm among them. Surprisingly, some even turned the situation into a joke, humorously suggesting that the hotel was on the brink of collapse. About a decade ago, the Hotel New World first made headlines when noxious fumes from a gas leak rendered 35 guests unconscious, affecting several of its 65 rooms. On the fateful night of August 19, 1975, around 200 panicked guests fled their rooms after an early morning alarm sounded. In the rush, some of the guests were trampled by the stampede and rendered unconscious in the corridors, only to be rescued by firemen. A total of 37 individuals, including 2 policemen, were later hospitalized due to exposure to toxic carbon monoxide, a byproduct of gas combustion. An inquiry by the Public Utilities Board revealed that the gas buildup occurred when the hotel's ventilation system was inactive, while a gas water heater ran continuously. This lack of proper ventilation led to carbon monoxide formation due to insufficient oxygen for combustion. The reasons behind the ventilation system's shutdown remains unclear, but critics speculate that it either stemmed from an electrical fault or cost-saving measures during the night. Initially named the New Serangoon Hotel, it underwent a name change 2 years later, presumably to detach from its past and avoid impacting future business prospects. Records indicate the hotel's popularity among tourists from Thailand and India, offering rooms at approximately $50 a night, equivalent to about $130 in today's currency. Reports also highlight the hotel's consistent high occupancy, reaching at least 70% every single night. Amidst the name change and the passing of a decade, there was a glimmer of hope that the hotel's troubled history might fade into obscurity. Yet, that hope soon proved fleeting, because the hotel would once again be launched into the headlines of every news outlet. On the ill-fated morning of March 15, 1986, at approximately 11:25 a.m., the unthinkable happened. The Hotel New World had collapsed. In less than 60 seconds, the once towering structure crumbled into a heap of debris, leaving no trace of its walls or columns. The disaster brought forth pandemonium, with dust and debris clouding the air, enveloping the entire vicinity in a haze. Amidst the thunderous collapse, screams reverberated, mirroring the shock and fear felt by the witnesses. This incident stood as one of the worst tragedies Singapore experienced since the Japanese occupation during World War II. 8 minutes after the collapse, a pair of fire engines dashed from the central fire station on Hill Street, swiftly reaching the disaster site. Soon after, the police arrived, closely followed by a gathering force, including the Singapore Civil Defence Force and medical experts from the Singapore Armed Forces, all converging on the scene within 30 minutes. At the age of 26, CJ Singh was shopping with a friend in High Street at the time of the collapse. He recounted, "We heard some screaming and some shouting, and that something has collapsed. We started running with other people towards this building, and we saw the building wasn't here anymore. Just the roof. Everything was under the roof."
I saw a building, just like ice cream melting, just like this,
Initial estimates put the number of people trapped at 100.
This is a very sad and shocking day. So I think what we have to do now is to put every ounce of our energy, effort into the question of saving lives first.
Singapore was caught off guard, facing a situation it had never encountered before.
Disaster also united.
Rescuers and emergency vehicles were unprepared to address the challenge that laid ahead. Their initial attempts to clear the rubble could be compared to navigating through a minefield. Each effort to lift a beam or remove debris threatened to trigger a domino effect. A single wrong move could result in an avalanche of concrete slabs and debris, closing off any possibility of rescuing those trapped beneath. Faced with the daunting possibility of over 300 individuals trapped amidst the rubble, rescuers raced against time, knowing that their swift actions were crucial for any hope of saving lives. Simultaneously, the grim news spread swiftly among the anguished relatives and families of those within the building. Grief-stricken family members started arriving, their distress palpable among the gathered crowd. Tears streamed down the cheeks of some as they sought solace in tight embraces, while others dropped to their knees, fervently praying for a miraculous intervention in the midst of a chaos. Those who survived the catastrophe recount harrowing tales of their time trapped beneath the rubble, pinned under massive concrete slabs and tangled steel bars. They bore witness to a symphony of distress, their ears filled with the sounds of pleas and cries for aid, some loud and frantic, others a haunting silence. An hour after the collapse of the Hotel New World, The initial few survivors emerged from the rubble, primarily guests who had been staying in the upper floors of the hotel. Rescuers began to employ cranes and forklifts to meticulously extract each concrete slab and steel beam, methodically working from the top downwards. At the time, this slow, painstaking process was the only viable means to navigate through the wreckage. However, the rubble remained precariously unstable. Any sudden movement could trigger hazardous shifts that could potentially endanger lives, possibly resulting in fatal consequences for those trapped beneath. However, the clock was ticking for the rescuers as they confronted another urgent challenge. They were aware that oxygen levels were depleting rapidly at the base of the rubble pile. Moreover, they understood that individuals who were injured and bleeding profusely would likely succumb to their injuries, given the inability to stem the bleeding under the immense weight of the debris. Trapped beneath tons of concrete and steel, the survivors are sealed in a dark, ominous tomb. Their only hope hinges on the rescuers' speed, but if they don't arrive soon, the chance to save them may slip away forever. Mass Murders is a 1UP Media original. A quick word on our reenactments and dramatizations. While we can't know exactly what they say, think, or feel at the moment, it is all based on research. This episode was executive produced by Guang Jin, produced and written by Ethan Sam, edited by Alex, narrated by Jason, audio experience by Ethan Sam, with additional engineering by Ashley from 1UP Media. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one.